We are joined by a very good friend of Breitbart News. He is our former national security editor, and as of last night, former deputy assistant to President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Dr. Gorka, thanks for joining us here tonight, this morning on Breitbart News Saturday.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Matt. Great to be back on the show.
Yeah, so obviously big news yesterday regarding your situation. You stepped down as and resigned as deputy assistant to the president from the White House. Can you tell us the circumstances that led to your decision to resign? Obviously, your resignation letter is making the rounds, or parts of it online, and it's a pretty bold resignation letter. Can you tell us what led to your decision to do that?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. So the President of the United States ran a campaign on a very simple platform. It was like Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan said, we're going to rebuild the economy, we're going to defeat the Soviet Union, and we're going to make Americans proud to be Americans again. The president, our current president, did the same thing. He said, I'm going to fix the economy, build the wall, and defeat ISIS. That's MAGA. That's what making America great again really means. And unfortunately, I don't want to go into the palace intrigue stuff, because we've had too much of that. But the fact is, the forces of MAGA, the Make America Great Again faces, the policy people like Steve Bannon, my old boss inside the White House, have been systematically undermined, many of them fired from the NSC. And I realize after the president's speech this week on Afghanistan that he is not being well served. That speech was written by people for the president in direct contravention of everything that we voted for on November the 8th. It is not clear why we're in Afghanistan. It doesn't explain why we're going to continue to potentially expend American lives and American money in that nation. And the most important thing, Matt, it didn't mention once the phrase radical Islam or radical Islamic terrorism. Just think back to how massive a difference that is to the speech the president gave to the joint session of Congress at the beginning of the year. So I decided that just as with Steve, we can be far more effective for the president on the outside, and it's a very exciting day for me and my family to start again supporting the MAGA message as private citizens.
Yeah, and obviously one of the things I want to see if you can just clear this up for us, because there were some people in the White House who were anonymously leaking that claiming that you didn't resign. And in fact, I want to read a quote from a tweet from Jonathan Swan. He's a reporter at Axios. He's one of the good guys, I think, in the media who works to get it right. He says, quote, Trump surrogates are emailing me saying they've never seen anything like the email they just received saying Gorka didn't resign. It was pretty petty on behalf of whoever in the White House was doing this. Of course, we have a story up about that. Can you tell us, again, just clarify for us, you did resign, right?
Yeah, so let's get everything on the record. I decided to resign this week after the president's speech. I indicated earlier this week to General Kelly that I'm on Monday. I would like to present my letter of resignation. Yesterday, I spoke to him on the phone and reinforced in email that for various decisions I resign effective Friday. I would like to be able to present my letter of resignation in person to the president on Monday. I don't know if it happened, but that's what we had. I find it very, very sad that somebody in the administration, because I have a screenshot of the email he sent, tried to spin this out of the comments. In doing so, actually lied about her position inside the White House, representing herself as a senior official when she isn't. That's we expect that on the left.
But not from our side. Dr. Gorka, you've got a really bad cell reception. Is there any way you can check with our producer? I'm going to take a couple calls while we get that sorted out, and then we'll come back to this. Can we go to Tom in Wisconsin on line 1? Tom in Wisconsin, while our producer Haley gets this sorted out. Tom, how you doing today? You're on Breitbart News Saturday. How can we help you today?
Hi, I'm just calling in about President Trump's speech on Tuesday. Where he said we need to get rid of the filibuster, and his train of thought went toward how useless it is to try to do reconciliation. He just briefly mentioned that, and then he got sidetracked onto another topic. But the entire claim of Mitch McConnell that, well, we don't have a working majority to even talk about getting rid of the filibuster is a total lie. Because when you start a bill with Paul Ryan presenting it, which is automatically going to be watered down because he talks to Mitch McConnell, because they
have to try to get to 60 votes, right? And then, right. And so, like, look, here's the point. The president's exactly right that the filibuster needs to go. Because, again, this is not something that was enshrined in the Constitution. It's a Senate rule. They can change them as they see fit. And we saw them do that with the Supreme Court nominee. So we can see them do that again with regard to legislation. And so I really think that the president is right about this, and the Senate should heed his advice. Tom, thank you for the call, brother. I think we have Dr. Gorka back again. Dr. Gorka, so one of the key things, Dr. Gorka, that you did over the course of your time at the White House, which I thought was probably one of the most important things, was you defined the enemy. Of course, we know that the mainstream media or the establishment media is the opposition party, but you further defined them in an interview where you laid out that they are the fake news industrial complex. And can you explain what you meant by that in how how we should approach attacking and targeting the fake news industrial complex?
Yeah, absolutely. So I owe that phrase to a colleague of mine in the White House who for now will remain nameless, but fake news industrial complex is what we face today as Americans who believe in the founding principles of this nation. You just look at the absurdities of the last 9 months. I mean, let's just think about a couple of them. Let's think about the fact that we have a White House that has been accused of being xenophobic, racist, white supremacist, and anti-Semitic, at the same time that our president's grandchildren are Orthodox Jews. I mean, we just have to let that sink in for a minute. The media has become obsessed with, I remember an interview I did with Chris Cuomo, where for 16 minutes, all he wanted to talk about is one of the president's tweets. I mean, this is as China is resurgent, as Iran is facilitated by the JCPOA Iran deal, as ISIS is being crushed in Mosul, as the economy is booming, as we have decreased illegal immigration by 73%. And Chris Cuomo wants to spend 16 dead. So we are winning, and we're going to continue to do so. And with Steve back at the helm, it's like the last scene from Star Wars. Okay, remember what Ben Kenobi said to Darth? Okay, if you strike me down, I will be more powerful than you can ever imagine. The left thinks they're winning. They have no idea what's coming around the corner, and it's going to be fun, Matt. You know it.
Yeah, no, that's what I want to talk to you about next. Now that you're out of the White House, what are some of the things you're planning to focus on next, Dr. Gorka? I know you'll probably be involved a little bit here at Breitbart News. I don't know the full extent if you're going to come back in as our national security editor. But what are some of the things that you're planning to do to help support the president's agenda and move this ball forward? And again, despite whatever is going on inside that building and all the different West Wing infighting and everything, we read about it all the time. I know that you're somebody that the president is going to be lucky to have out here on television, pushing a message, talking about the stuff that's important to that got him elected.
Right. Well, I'm in negotiations. I'm talking to lots of different people. I had a great talk with Steve Bannon last night. I have no intention to displace Frances Martel. She has done a superb job running national security for Breitbart, but I will be working with Steve, with you, with the Breitbart crew. My aim right now, it's a multi-pronged approach. We have to create the platform for a true Jacksonian national security foreign policy agenda to support the president. The idea that on the right, and this is why the president won, the idea that on the right you have to choose between being a Cato Institute isolationist, which never works, or being a neocon, Bill Kristol, let's invade everywhere neocon, is absurd. We're going to fill that vacuum in the middle with the people at Breitbart, with our good friends who have been supporting us on the outside for the last 7 months, and that's what I'm going to be working on, breaking the back of the fake conservatives and destroying the left wing's attempted monopoly of what it means to be America today. That's what I'll be working on with you, Matt, and with that great team at Breitbart.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Dr. Gorka, you mentioned a Jacksonian foreign policy. Can you explain what that is? Can you break down the key pillars of such a policy? And again, this is what President Trump campaigned on, and this is what we know that he would like to implement. So what is it that you envision as the key pillars and principles of such a policy platform?
Right. So in a nutshell, we believe that America is special. It's not just another country. It is that shining light on the hill. It is the most important, greatest embodiment of Judeo-Christian nationhood in the world today. That does not mean that we wish to create everybody in our image as some kind of cookie-cutter neocon invasion force, but we will stand for objective truth. So we will stand for American values, and if we see a threat, we will destroy it. So Jacksonianism is not about trying to change the world and micromanage it into some kind of socially engineered utopia. That's what communism, that's what fascism tried to do. We are here to represent American values. We're not going to apologize for them, and we're going to take down bad guys when they need taking down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now the other thing you mentioned here, Dr. Gorka, was in the first 6 months, or I think we're at 7 months now in this administration. Many of the major foreign policy successes, again, not to mention the Afghanistan thing, which I think we'll maybe get a clearer picture on that in the coming months when people start seeing that this globalist type strategy isn't going to be successful. But you mentioned, the crushing of ISIS, zoning in on Iran, zoning in on North Korea. Can you walk us through the successes of President Trump in the first 7 months? Because again, the rest of the media is not interested in talking about any of this. We at Breitbart are, because, while we'll certainly criticize in places where criticism is warranted, I think that the other thing that we do is we have to highlight the successes. Walk us through what are the successes of this administration. I think there are many, many, many successes.
Oh, it's really quite stunning if you get out of the miasma of the bubble and the fake news industrial complex. So number one, already mentioned, thanks to the work of General Kelly at DHS, we have seen an almost 80% decrease in illegal migration before a brick has been put on another brick building the wall. So that's massive. Just the words of the president, just the unshackling of our CBP, Border Patrol, ICE agents has meant that we are already safer. Secondly, the revitalization of NATO. I mean, the president, nobody clearly in Brussels or in the NATO nations read the president's book, The Art of the Deal. What did he do? For months and months, he said, NATO, you got a problem. You got a serious problem. Mm-hmm. People lambasted him for undermining the Northern Alliance. What happened in the end? They said, 2% of GDP, we'd love to. Absolutely, Mr. President. So he played the soft, liberal, unserious about defense elites in Europe, and he managed to get support from the base, the kind of Brexiteer constituencies that were key to the kind of phenomena we saw here in America on November the 8th. And he got NATO revitalized. NATO is now stronger than ever, thanks not only to the president, but to Secretary Mattis and others. Then we look at ISIS. This is the untold story. I have the honor, before I came into administration, of working very closely with our guys at Bragg and with our tier one assets around the country. When you talk to those people, they use this phrase, Matt: we are stacking the bad guys like cordwood in Iraq and Syria. We are taking the fight to them. We have gone from a policy of attrition, nibbling at the edges of jihadism, to one of annihilation. We will crush them. Now, it is important, now that the key personalities inside the NSC have been removed, that we keep the pressure on from the outside, because we must continue until global jihadism is a laughing stock and does not pose a serious threat to America or our friends or allies. I can go on and on. Let's talk about Israel. We have totally reversed our course on Israel. Israel was persona non grata for the last 8 years. Now they understand, thanks to the vice president's speeches, thanks to the president himself, thanks to our new ambassador in Israel, that we will stand shoulder to shoulder with our Jewish friends, and we will protect we will support, we will stand by them because they face the jihadi threat on their doorstep. So in key issues, we've done great things. But unfortunately, those who don't believe in many of those things are now at the helm in key places, and we have to make sure that they maintain the MAGA doctrine, and we're going to be doing that right now.
From the outside, yeah. No, and one other thing that I wanted to bring up, Dr. Gorka, and you mentioned Israel. Of course, you get falsely attacked all the time. You are a target of the fake news industrial complex all the time. They falsely accuse you of anti-Semitism and all sorts of other things. It is the most disgusting smear campaign I've ever seen. What's your response to those people? Why do you think it is that they're doing that? And they're not going to succeed, are they?
What's my response? I laugh in their faces. I mean, really, Matt, you know that if the Huffington Post, if Slate, if BuzzFeed, if the New York Times, if CNN, if the Washington Post wrote anything nice about me, every single Trump voter should ask for their money back. You're only taking flack when you're over the target.
Yes.
The fact is, that's the bottom line, Matt, and I'm proud and I wear it as a badge of honor. My father lived through Nazi occupation in Hungary. My father was persecuted and tortured and imprisoned by the communists. They just have words, Matt. Bring it on, brother. Bring it on, because we will defeat you in the realm of ideas, and America will be great again with President Trump, with people at Breitbart, and with the MAGA base.
All right. Well, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, thanks, brother, for joining us here to open up Breitbart News Saturday.
My pleasure. Be strong.
All right.